Let me summarize this topic in one sentence, then in 1 minute, so you can decide whether or not it's worth your time. In one sentence, planning your future without processing your past will make your future look like your past. Each year, we make plans and resolutions based on what we think we want. We want a better body, relationships, jobs, more money, and so on. But why? Because we think they'll make us happy. But the truth is we don't know. Resolutions target realities we haven't experienced, so we have no idea how these realities will actually make us feel. When we set New Year's resolutions, we're committing to outcomes that we don't understand, that we can't control, resulting in strategies that are often either too vague or too ambitious. The problem is when we plan for the future without processing the past, without understanding what did and didn't work, we're likely to make the same mistakes over and over again. What if this year, rather than setting resolutions based on what you think you want, you make plans based on what you know you've had? Hi, I'm Ryder, and in this video, I'll explore how we can use the bullet journal method to help to prepare for the year ahead. If you don't know what the bullet journal method is, welcome. A lot of these strategies can also apply to your life operating system. And if you don't have one of those, this channel is a great place to begin, so maybe consider subscribing. All right, let's dive in. Before I can show you how to plan for the year ahead, I want to address a more fundamental question here. How do we begin to define what we want? It's such a big question, which is true, but it's also one that's being answered in every moment. Let me explain. Everything that we do, everything that we experience triggers thoughts and feelings, both negative and positive. This is incredibly valuable feedback because it helps us learn what we do and do not resonate with in our lives. In other words, it helps us know what kind of things actually bring us a sense of joy, connection, purpose, and meaning, and what does not. This is incredibly important information, especially when it comes to planning our future. Sadly, much of this data, though, gets drowned out by the noise of our busy lives. The first step in knowing what we want begins by paying attention to what we have. The easiest way to do that for me is through bullet journaling. For me, the bullet journal method is the practice of paying attention to my life. It creates a record of the things that I do, experience, think, and feel. Then I can use that record to help me identify the things that light me up, things that bum me out, obstacles, boundaries, opportunities, and possibilities. So before I try to figure out the year ahead, I like to look back at this record of my lived experience because it's packed with all sorts of hard-won lessons. All I need to do is ask a single question. What did I learn? I see every notebook as another chapter in my life. The first thing I do before figuring out the next chapter is to process the one gone by. And I do this using a collection I call the chapter log, which helps me to distill this past chapter into a high-level summary of my most noteworthy insights. To set up the chapter log, I will turn to my next blank spread in my current notebook and divide it into 4 cells. The left page is about process. This is for strategies and goals that I've tried. It helps me clearly see what worked and what didn't, which there are plenty of. Without even looking back, 2 things already come to mind. One thing that worked is daily logging. If you want to learn more about that, put a link to that video. This helped me remain much more focused throughout the day. One thing that didn't work was granular time boxing, because I always feel like I'm running behind, and that takes the fun out of all of my work. The right page is about purpose. Here I'll list what I want more of and what I want less of in this next chapter of my life. Here's a clear list of the things that have had a positive or negative impact on the quality of my life. One thing that I want more of in my life, for example, is play. The more I play, the more I bring play into my life, the more playful my life becomes. So in this next chapter of my life, I'm going to create goals around more play. What I want less of in my life is working on projects that I'm not really excited about. So next year, I will edit my plans accordingly. With my chapter log in place, I go back through the notebook or notebooks from cover to cover, starting with their index, and then working my way through the monthly, weekly, daily, and custom collections. What was I paying attention to? What was I working on, experiencing during that time? This is my chance to distill my most effective tools and strategies and noteworthy insights into a clean, clear list of takeaways. A lot can come up during this process, so I want to slow down here for a bit. When you go through this process, you may find a lot more of what didn't work and what you want less of. This can be disheartening, but it's also really important to get that clarity. Rather than adding new potential solutions, often the most productive thing we can do is to remove known problems. No amount of self-care will compete with a toxic relationship. No amount of productivity hacks will fix a job that you hate. No amount of fitness optimizations will compensate for a lack of sleep or a consistently poor diet. You get the point. Removing what you don't want in your life can be the most powerful way to help you move forward, which is where the next step comes in. When I have all my takeaways in place, I will synthesize them through a longer form written reflection. A written reflection is a journal entry that targets a specific topic, in this case, the year gone by. Though this may take some time, it can be a really powerful way to get clear on what I really want in this next chapter of my life. Now I also have this neat little list of cliff notes about what happened to help me write it. The next step is flipping back to my index. Throughout the lifetime of this notebook, the index serves as an address book for my thoughts. Now, it serves as a map of my attention. Here, clearly listed are all the things that I was paying attention to during this chapter of my life. The first thing I do is turn this list into an action list. For the things I no longer need or want to pay attention to, I mark them as done. For the things that I want to continue paying attention to, I leave them open. Again, I'm left with a clear menu of topics that I know are adding value to my life and are worth recommitting to in this next chapter. With all this preparation done, I can now set up my new notebook. Rather than seeing it as a chance to start over, I see this as an opportunity to level up. This next chapter will allow me to apply the many lessons and tools that I've cultivated not only in this last chapter, but all my previous chapters. And it all begins with setting an intention. I define an intention as a commitment to a process. What process or processes are you committing to in this next chapter of your life? Is it to be a better parent, teacher, partner, student, friend, sibling? Maybe it's just to be healthier. It's really up to you. Having just studied this record of your lived experience, what do you feel is most alive for you right now? Write that down. This will frame the next chapter of your life. Don't worry, you don't really have to overthink it. You can adjust it as necessary. It's just a great place to begin to set a foundation. With your intention in place, now you begin to set up the rest of your notebook. I do this by setting up the core bullet journal collections first, my index, future log, and monthly log. Then I will do a final sweep of my old notebooks looking for any open actions. Inevitably, there'll be an open task, or 20, remaining, and this can be a great opportunity for either self-judgment or self-inquiry. Beating myself up for what I have not done yet isn't helpful because I don't learn anything and it really destroys my motivation. What is helpful is getting curious about why I didn't do these things, from a place of curiosity instead of judgment. Sometimes the task was too overwhelming, so now I can break it down. Maybe some of these open actions are actually scattered ideas about one bigger project, and I can use this opportunity to organize them all into a custom collection in this next chapter of my life. Most of the time, however, actions have simply become irrelevant. Just because something can be done doesn't mean that it should be done. This is my chance to simply let go, to declutter my schedule, my mind, and my life. For everything we say no to, we're opening ourselves up to say yes to something that we care about much more. At this point, I'm pretty clear on what I'm recommitting to, and I start migrating them into their respective collections. The things I want to work on in the future go into the future log. The things I want to work on in this month will go into monthly log. Things that are part of a bigger project, like my live cohort that I'll be launching next year, or an area of focus like my nutrition, can be spun up as custom collections in my new notebook. Though we can't see into the future, we can feel into the present. We can look back and see which choices moved us towards what we value in our life, and the choices that distanced ourselves from those things. Without looking, it can be really hard to know. It's taking the time to understand which is which. We can then use that hard-won wisdom to write this next chapter of our life? What is one thing that you want to write into this next chapter of your life? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. If you want to learn more about bullet journaling, please be sure to sign up for our free introductory email series that will help you get started with your own bullet journal practice. Thank you for taking the time, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy bullet journaling.